Good afternoon. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Today we're going to look at how to send disclosures to your clients so that they can fill them out online. And then I'm also quickly going to go through how to send the disclosures through Authentisign once they've filled them out. So to get started, I'm going to log into Instanet. So I would just go to the Home tab and click on Instanet Forms. I already do have it open, so I'm just going to click on the tab. And from here, I'm going to go to my Transactions tab, and I'm going to create a transaction for this client. So I click on Transactions, and then I'm going to say I would like to create new transaction file and click the arrow. And then I'm going to give the transaction a name. And pick a type, so this is a listing. And then I can also choose a data source, so if I have an MLS number, say they're relisting with me, and I'm going to have them fill out new disclosures. If I have an MLS number already, I can pull from that MLS number by choosing Northstar MLS listing data, or I can go to relist data if I have a tax ID number. But for right now, I'm just going to keep this blank. And then we're going to say that I'm the seller landlord agent. So I just clicked the save button. It does take a little bit for it to save sometimes. And then it's going to bring me into the details page. So I'm going to fill out any information that I can on this page. Just going to quickly fill out an address here. Okay, and then I'm just going to put in a list price if I know it, and a list date. And then I'm going to save this information. So any of this information that I put in here, especially with the disclosures, the address information is going to pop into that form for them already, so they won't have to constantly fill the address out. I'm then going to go to the contacts page, and I'm going to add my contacts. So we're going to say I would like to add transaction contacts, and I'm going to add 2 contacts in here today. I can click the same as property address button if it's their home address, that's their contact address. So if it's a second home, you may not be able to use this address. And then in this case, I already have them in my contacts, so I'm just going to click the Insert from Contacts button. And I'm going to select the contact, and it's going to pull the information in there. If it wasn't already in my contacts, I would simply just have to type in their information to get it into there. And then there's a little button that says Add to My Contacts down at the bottom if they're not already part of your contacts. So I'm just going to save this contact, and then I'm going to add a second contact. And it's a seller. Remember, I can use the same as property address button. And then I either have Insert from Contacts right here if they're already in my contacts, or I can add the contact information up here and then check the box for Add to My Contacts. Okay, so I have that second contact in there, so I'm going to save that. And then my next step is to go to the Forms page. So I'm going to click on Forms. And then let me just take a second. I'm going to take these forms out just so we are only looking at the disclosures. So I'm going to delete the second form, selected forms, because I have a packet in here already. Okay, so if you don't have a packet already, or if you're missing forms out of the packet, you're going to go up to I would like to add new form and click the arrow. And then we're going to say, we're going to check the box for individual forms. We're going to check the box for MNAR Minnesota residential forms. And then I'm going to scroll down to the section on disclosures, and I'm going to pick my property disclosure, subsurface sewage treatment disclosure, and the well disclosure. And then I'm also going to go down and select my location map and add it. Okay, so once I have those added, I'm going to auto-populate my forms so that my address information goes into those disclosure forms, as well as my contact information. So I went to I would like to set auto-populate forms, and I'm going to click the arrow and click OK. And it's going to populate those forms with the address information that I've entered in. Okay, so at this point what you can do is you can click on the form and take a look at the information that's in there for us. And then once you're ready to send the form off for your client to fill it out, if you're sending it via email, there's two different ways that we can do that. At the top, we have transaction forms. If I click on this, I can check the boxes of the ones that I want to send, and then click the email button, and then I can put, whoops, I go back just a second. Okay, so since I'm sending disclosures and I want them to be able to fill it out, again, I would recommend just sending the disclosures one time, and then if you have any other forms that you don't want them to be able to edit, you would have to send those in a separate email. So I'm going to send email as a link, and then I'm going to allow recipients to make changes. And then the recipient, I can pick from my contacts right here. So I can pick the contact that I want out of here and then type in a message. I can send a fax back cover sheet if it's going to be something where they're printing out the document and then sending it back via fax. I'll actually get an email transmission of that, so they send a fax and it comes into an email format after. So if you want to include that, keep it checked. If not, you can uncheck that box and then click the check box to send it. So that's the first way that I can do it. I can also go to File and Exit, and that's going to take me back to the menu. And at that point, I can check the forms that I want to send. I'm going to go to I would like to email selected forms and click the arrow. And then I can say send email as a link and allow recipients to make changes, and then pick the email address out of there, and I can leave a message if I want to as well. So two different ways of doing the same thing. Either way works. You can use both if you want to as well. And then the email button is down at the bottom. Okay, so now once you send that off to your client, I'm going to show you how it's going to look to the client. So oops. Okay. All right, so this is the client email. So what's going to happen is they're going to get an email. It's this one right down here. You can see it on the list, transaction debts, document sent. And I've actually already gone in here and filled out some information, but I'll show you how the client can access this. So they're going to click on their name, or their email, excuse me. And then within the email, whoops, wrong one. One second here, let me get the right email. Here, invitation form. So we're going to click on that. And then they're going to get an invitation. And it's going to have links to all the forms that we have in here. So they can click on the link in the email. and it's going to load the form into a web page. And what they can do at this point is they can go through and they can fill in information on the form. So this is one that I've already, as a client, come into before. So I made some changes, and then I went up to File and Save after I made those changes. So if I want to fill out some information and then save it, I can do that. And then once I, as a client, go to File and Exit, my agent is going to get a notification that I've actually made a change to the form. So let's take a look at that email. So now, as an agent, I would get emails. I forwarded these on to the same email address so we can look at them. But we have two different emails that the agent is getting. Transaction desk form opened by one seller, so that's the name of the seller. So it's saying that they open the form, and then you'll also get an email if they do anything to the form, so if they make any changes. So this one right here is just going to inform us. Oops, that's just the forwarded information that they open the form. Okay, so you're simply just going to get an email saying that they open the form. The second email that we're looking at here, this tells us that they opened the form, but they also made changes to it. So you'll see that they put in the date on the form, and then it would outline any other changes that they make. Like I added some text on that line as well. Okay? And then once you are notified that they have made a change to it, you can always go in to the form again and click on the name of the form. And you at that point would see updated information if there was any information in there. Let me go, this was from a different transaction, so let me go to that transaction quick just so you can see the updated information. Okay, so I'm going to go to my Forms tab of that transaction. And then I see the updated information in it. You'll see that there was a couple boxes checked, and there was text added here. Okay, so at this point, once I get the information back, I could then take that information and put it through Authentisign so that they can actually sign the document. Because at this point, if they electronically send it back to you, they haven't signed the document yet. It's two different steps, just so you can review the information, make sure they have everything filled out correctly, and then you can take it through Authentisign. So once we've made sure that this information is all updated and that they didn't miss a form or something to that effect, I can then, in my transaction, click on the Authentisign button. And I can create an Authentisign for them to fill out. Okay, so in this case, I'm kind of indicating which forms they're signing in my signing name. So I would always recommend, you may do multiple signings for one transaction, so I would always recommend when you're creating the name for the signing that you give an indication of what forms that you're sending. Because you might have, say, a counteroffer form that you're sending later, you may send your disclosures and your agency form separately, etc. So you always want to indicate which forms you're sending in here, just so you can keep track of it within the system. So I'm going to make that change. I'm going to send this simulsign so everybody can sign it at the same time. And then if you want to, you can set an expiration date and reminders in this step. I'm then going to select my participants from my transaction. And And in this case, it's only going to be the sellers that are signing, so I'm just going to pick those, and they're signing remotely, so I'm going to pick remote signer. I'm going to then click on Documents, and I'm going to select my transaction, and I'm going to select all of the disclosure forms that they filled out to sign, and click Add. I'm then going to click, whoops, excuse me. It's going to then ask me who is signing on here. So there's a spot for the buyers to sign. So it's asking me if I have the buyers in this transaction somewhere. And I'm just going to keep it as ignore because they're not part of this, this signing at the moment. So I have my first seller, my second seller, and then I'm going to save. And then if I wanted to at this point, I could move the forms around by using these little arrows. I'm going to keep the order the same at this point, and then I'm going to click the plus sign next to design, and it's going to prepare the document for me. And then once the document is pulled up, I can scroll through, and I'm just going to make sure that the signing blanks are in the right spot, or if I need to add them, I can do so at this point as well. Okay, so these look good. We have sign here for seller 1, and it's going to automatically date it, and seller 2. And I can continue through the forms. And then I have seller 1, seller 2. And again, seller 1, seller 2. And then I have the seller's initials on the bottom of the location map. Okay, so if I was missing any signatures, I'm going to first pick the signer, and then I can pick drag and drop, and I would just simply click and drag the signing blank onto the page. If I need to add a date as well, I just use the gear icon right here. And I'm going to left click on it, and then I can add a date stamp, a name block, a time stamp, or I can delete it. And then I have other options over here as far as initials, optional initials. You can add check boxes, radio buttons. Those are check boxes or X's or circles that I can add for them to use on the form. I can add today's date using this date stamp. So if I realize that they forgot to date the top of the form, that would automatically put today's date on there. And then I have a signer's name, initial, text boxes, and QR codes here. Just a reminder that if you have to leave at any point when you're creating a signing to answer a phone call or something, you also want to go under Options and save the changes. Okay. At this point, since all the signing links are there, I'm going to click the arrow. And I have a chance right here to customize invitation email, subject, and text. So I could, if I want to, I can say disclosures for signing, and then I can put the address on there if I want to. So any subject line that you would like, and then you can type message. And click save. You would have to do that for each of the sellers if you'd like a message for each of them. Or you can just highlight it and Control-C to copy and Control-V to paste. And then I'm able to copy the message over for each. And then I'm going to click save. And then to send the invitation, I'll just click the send button at the top. It's going to finalize it, and it's going to send it off to the client. Authentisign invitations were successfully sent. I'm going to click OK. And then at this point, the client could go into their email and they're going to have that message in there. You'll notice my message says, disclosures for signing, 123 Main Street, and then it gives the name of the transaction on there as well. So then they can go in there and they can sign it, and it'll pop back into the document section of your transaction once they've signed it. Thank you for joining us today. Please let me know if you have any questions. My email is marissa@greaterlakesrealtors.com. Thank you.